On September 11, 2001, the United States experienced one of the most devastating and transformative events in its history. The coordinated terrorist attacks carried out by the extremist group Al-Qaeda shook the nation to its core, killing nearly 3,000 people and injuring thousands more. Beyond the immediate tragedy, 9/11 fundamentally altered the course of American politics, society, security, foreign policy, and culture in ways that still resonate today. To truly understand how 9/11 changed the United States, we need to examine not only the attacks themselves, but the profound and wide-ranging effects they triggered across every aspect of American life. The attacks began early in the morning on September 11th, when 19 terrorists hijacked 4 commercial airliners. 2 planes were deliberately flown into the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York City, causing the iconic buildings to collapse within hours. A third plane struck the Pentagon, the headquarters of the U.S. Department of Defense, just outside Washington, D.C. The fourth plane, United Airlines Flight 93, crashed into a field in Pennsylvania after passengers attempted to overcome the hijackers. The targets symbolized America's economic, military, and political power, and the scale of the assault was unprecedented in American history. The immediate impact was catastrophic. Nearly 3,000 people lost their lives, including first responders such as firefighters and police officers who heroically rushed into the burning towers. The attacks caused massive destruction and trauma, not just in New York and Washington, but across the nation and the world. Americans watched in horror and disbelief as the events unfolded live on television, experiencing a collective shock that transcended geography and demographics. One of the most profound changes after 9/11 was the reshaping of U.S. national security policy. The attacks exposed vulnerabilities in intelligence sharing, airport security, and emergency response. In response, the federal government launched sweeping reforms designed to prevent future attacks and strengthen Homeland security. The most visible symbol of this shift was the creation of the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, in 2002, a massive new cabinet-level agency responsible for coordinating efforts across dozens of agencies and jurisdictions to protect the nation. Airport security underwent an immediate and radical overhaul. The Transportation Security Administration, TSA, was established to implement new screening protocols, including more rigorous passenger and baggage inspections. The infamous removal of shoes, limits on liquids, and full-body scanners are just a few examples of security measures born from the post-9/11 security environment. These changes altered the way Americans and travelers worldwide approached air travel, embedding security concerns deeply into everyday life. Perhaps even more consequential were changes in intelligence and surveillance. The USA Patriot Act, passed quickly after the attacks, granted law enforcement expanded powers to monitor communications, conduct surveillance, and detain suspects. While intended to thwart terrorism, these measures sparked ongoing debates about the balance between security and civil liberties, a tension that remains contentious decades later. On the international stage, 9/11 dramatically reshaped U.S. foreign policy. The Bush administration declared a global war on terror, which involved military interventions in Afghanistan and later Iraq. The invasion of Afghanistan in late 2001 aimed to dismantle al-Qaeda and remove the Taliban regime that had harbored terrorists. This marked the beginning of America's longest war, lasting nearly 2 decades, with profound consequences for U.S. military strategy, international relations, and domestic politics. The 2003 invasion of Iraq, justified in part by claims of weapons of mass destruction and links to terrorism, remains highly controversial. It significantly impacted regional stability in the Middle East, strained U.S. alliances, and fueled debates about the use of military force in nation-building. These wars reshaped America's global image, security priorities, and defense spending, and the repercussions continue to influence geopolitical dynamics today. Domestically, 9/11 had a powerful cultural and societal impact. In the immediate aftermath, there was an outpouring of patriotism and unity across the United States. Americans rallied behind first responders, the military, and each other in an unprecedented display of national solidarity. The slogan, "We will never forget," became a defining phrase of remembrance and resilience. Yet, this unity was complicated by rising fears and tensions. Muslim Americans, South Asians, and other minority groups faced increased scrutiny, discrimination, and hate crimes. The post-9/11 era saw the passage of policies such as the National Security Entry-Exit Registration System, (NSERS), which targeted certain ethnicities and nationalities for additional screening. This heightened suspicion challenged ideals of tolerance and civil rights, igniting debates about immigration, identity, and security. The media landscape also changed. 9/11 was one of the first events to be broadcast live globally in real time, marking a new era in how news was consumed. The 24-hour news cycle intensified, with continuous coverage influencing public opinion, government decisions, and cultural narratives. Films, books, and art dealing with terrorism, security, and the attacks proliferated, shaping American cultural memory. Economically, the attacks inflicted significant short-term damage. The New York Stock Exchange closed for several days, and the airline and tourism industries suffered major losses. Insurance claims from the attacks totaled billions of dollars. Yet the broader economic impacts were complex. The government's response included significant increases in defense and security spending, which affected budgets and priorities for years. The focus on security also influenced infrastructure investments and technology development, especially in cybersecurity. One interesting fact is that 9/11 accelerated the growth of surveillance technologies and private security industries. The emphasis on intelligence gathering spurred advancements in data analysis, facial recognition, and drone usage. These technologies, while intended to enhance safety, also raised privacy concerns and ethical questions. The attacks also led to changes in American immigration policy. The United States tightened visa regulations, enhanced border security, and implemented new databases for tracking foreign nationals. While these measures aimed to protect against terrorism, they also complicated immigration processes and sparked discussions about America's role as a nation of immigrants. The resilience and rebuilding efforts in New York City itself offer another important story. The cleanup and reconstruction of the World Trade Center site, known as Ground Zero, became a symbol of national recovery and remembrance. The new One World Trade Center, completed in 2013, stands as a testament to renewal. The 9/11 Memorial and Museum attract millions of visitors, ensuring that the legacy of those lost continues to be honored. Psychologically, the attacks had lasting effects on the American public. Studies revealed increased anxiety, trauma, and stress-related disorders in many communities. The impact was particularly profound among first responders and survivors, leading to greater awareness and support for mental health issues linked to trauma and disaster. Politically, 9/11 influenced elections and governance. The surge of patriotism helped secure the re-election of President George W. Bush in 2004. However, the subsequent controversies over the Iraq War and domestic surveillance eroded public trust over time. The attacks also heightened partisan divides, as debates over security, civil liberties, and foreign policy became central to American political discourse. Another notable change was the evolution of American counterterrorism strategy. Intelligence agencies shifted focus to preventing homegrown radicalization and lone wolf attacks, recognizing that threats were no longer limited to foreign actors operating abroad. The Department of Homeland Security implemented programs to foster community engagement and counter violent extremism. In education, 9/11 inspired new curricula and research into terrorism, security studies, and Middle Eastern history. Universities established programs dedicated to these fields, shaping generations of students and policymakers. Interestingly, 9/11 also accelerated the use of technology in emergency response. The attacks exposed gaps in communication between agencies like the NYPD, FDNY, and federal responders. This led to the development of integrated communication systems, emergency management protocols, and drills designed to enhance coordination for future crises. In the cultural sphere, 9/11 inspired an outpouring of artistic expression, from literature and film to music and visual arts. Works like United 93, Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, and documentaries provide personal and collective perspectives on the tragedy. Memorials and anniversaries serve as occasions for reflection and education, connecting past and present. Globally, 9/11 reshaped international alliances and security cooperation. NATO invoked Article 5, the Collective Defense Clause, for the first time in its history, expressing solidarity with the U.S. countries worldwide, increased intelligence sharing, tightened security, and adopted counterterrorism measures. The long-term legacy of 9/11 remains evident today. The balance between freedom and security continues to be debated. Issues raised by surveillance and privacy concerns have expanded with new technologies and cyber threats. The wars initiated in response have shaped global geopolitics and influenced U.S. military doctrine. In sum, 9/11 was a watershed moment that redefined America's identity, policies, and worldview. The attacks were a profound human tragedy, but also a catalyst for change that transformed the nation's institutions, culture, and role on the world stage. To fully grasp how 9/11 changed the USA, we must consider its immediate impacts, the sweeping reforms it inspired, and the ongoing challenges it created, all of which continue to influence America's path into the 21st century.